The blue light of the screen hit Raisin before he was fully awake. He squinted, swiped the notification away. The headline froze. First Trillionaire confirmed. He sat up, the sheets pooling at his waist, and tapped the link. It was not gold. It was not oil. It was not land. The wealth had been extracted from pure, concentrated intelligence. Raisin let the device slide from his palm, the glass clattering against the hardwood floor. He stared at the ceiling, the silence of the room suddenly heavy. For decades, the world had measured power in physical assets, in barrels and bullion. That era had just ended. The war for the future was not being fought in trenches or boardrooms with physical goods. It was being waged in lines of code and neural networks. He leaned over the edge of the bed and retrieved the device. The ticker was moving faster now, numbers scrolling in a blur of green. He realized then that the foundation of the world had shifted beneath him while he slept. The age of physical struggle was over. The era of the intellect had begun. Raisin pulled up the market data. It was a bloodbath of capital. Tech giants were incinerating billions, not on physical factories, but on the silicon brains powering the ecosystem. He watched the ticker for NVIDIA. Investors were treating those processors like the only currency that mattered. It was a digital gold rush, and the hardware was the shovel. He traced the lines of investment, seeing how the biggest companies on Earth were locked in a quiet, high-stakes arms race. While the public debated irrelevant noise on social media, these empires were pouring resources into a singular goal: absolute intelligence. Raisin leaned back, the blue glow reflecting in his eyes. He could almost see the architecture taking shape in the shadows, a new grid of power that bypassed traditional borders. This was not just business. It was the construction of a new civilization. He felt a sharp, sudden pull in his gut. A hunger. He realized that if the world was being rewritten by these silent machines, the people who owned the infrastructure would hold the keys to the next century. He was no longer just watching the news. He was mapping the battlefield. Raisin shifted his focus from the market tickers to the labor reports. The data was cold and precise. Entire sectors were dissolving in real time. Customer support, editing, coding, and finance, the bedrock of the modern workforce, were being hollowed out by automated systems. He stood up and paced the room, the walls feeling tighter with every step. He looked at his own workspace, the tools he relied on, and saw them for what they were: relics. The uncomfortable truth hit him with physical force. It was not the machines that would destroy his livelihood. It was the people who learned to command them. He felt the chill of potential obsolescence crawling up his spine. If he stayed on his current path, he was a spectator waiting to be deleted. The choice was binary. He could cling to the old methods and fade into irrelevance, or he could force a transformation. He gripped the edge of his desk until his knuckles turned white. The era of the generalist was over. The era of the AI-powered specialist had arrived. He sat back down and opened a blank terminal. It was time to stop watching the revolution and start building his own place within it. Raisin did not sleep. He fed his own data into the neural architecture, forcing the models to learn his rhythm. He built a system that managed his entire workflow, collapsing a week of labor into 3 hours of process logic. He watched the terminal output scroll, the sheer speed of execution making his heart hammer against his ribs. He was not just working, he was commanding an invisible engine that never tired. The microturn came at dawn. He pushed a single command, and the software handled the output for an entire department. He had found the leverage point. It was not about working harder. It was about owning the system that did the work for him. He leaned into the screen, his fingers flying across the keys, refining the prompts until the results were flawless. The fear of being left behind evaporated, replaced by an electric, sharp focus. He realized he was no longer a spectator. He was the architect of his own scale. By mid-morning, he had secured control over the automated pipelines that would define his new territory. He felt the weight of the potential, the ability to move faster than any institution, to build more than any team, and to claim a seat among the architects of the new world. Raisin walked to the glass panel and stared out at the city lights. They no longer looked like distant points of energy. They looked like nodes in a grid he now understood. He traced the path of his own rise. From the moment of doubt to the mastery of the machine, the infrastructure he commanded was silent. But it was moving. It was processing millions of data points, managing workflows across sectors, and building value while the world slept. He was not just using the tools, he was defining the architecture of the next century. The transition was complete. He looked at his hands, steady and still. The fear that had once driven him was gone. Replaced by a cold, precise ambition, he knew what was coming. The next 10 years would rewrite the history of wealth, producing more millionaires than the previous 100 years combined. He had positioned himself at the center of the storm. He was no longer a spectator of history. He was the one writing the next chapter. He turned away from the window, walked back to the console, and initiated the next sequence. The revolution was not coming. It was here. And for those who knew how to command it, the future was an open gate.